The Graphic Histories Podcast.
I got bitten by a radioactive bug. I tried an experimental drug. Went up for a stroll on a gamma testing range. I found an enchanted hurricane. I made a serum that made me small. I modified the serum so it would make me tall. Radioactive isotope in my eyes. Dying alien helped me accessorize. I gained the proportion and strength of a spider. Now I'm invincible and I can fly. I lost my sight, my other senses were heightened. I'm gonna put on my pajamas and go fight crime.
Hey there, and welcome to the Graphic Histories Podcast. My name is Narvaez, your podcast host. Big thanks to Uka the Mock for our theme song, Superpowers, and big thanks to you, gentle listener, for tuning in once again to another action-packed, fun-filled show. Today I talk with Jason Narvaez, who is someone deeply connected with animation. He's worked on many shows, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Yu-Gi-Oh! And a bunch of other things, and we talk about that in the episode. Very cool guy, has his kind of foot in a lot of worlds, and very unique story. And yeah, great conversation, I love talking to people of different walks of life. We get a lot of comic people. We get some, last episode we had someone that was a comic person but also connected to the acting world. Of course, Jason has a deep connection to the animation world, which is a whole other thing, which is very unique and very cool, and something that we often get to talk about over on the X-Rated, the X-Men Anime Review Show, kind of sister podcast to this one, that we do here in the Square 2 Pod Network. But it is very cool. We have a great conversation. Sometimes he sent me a message afterwards asking him or telling him that I should send the therapy bill because it was such a fun conversation. So, and I love that. I love when people reach out and talk about how much fun they had, because I just want this to be a fun conversation, a fun chat about their lives. If I met you at a party, this is the conversation we would have, and the listeners get to enjoy that and listen to it from home as well. So, that's what I want. That's what I want this to be. And when people kind of get that, when they just relax and we have a good time, it makes for the best episodes. And that was certainly one here when I talked with Jason. So big thanks to Jason for being on the show. Big thanks for you to listening. Last episode, I talked about what a great year it was for horror. I suddenly, I recently got to check out Alien Earth, some of it, the new show on Disney Plus, which is extending the Alien universe as a mini-series in which the aliens get to Earth. It is very cool. It is very good. And if you like aliens, you're going to like it. It is fantastic and fun. And another great entry into the Alien franchise, because there are a lot of not great ones, and this is a good one. And also one that, I think will enhance the legacy. And it's just a good watch, a good show, a good watch, a good view, something fun that you can check out and enjoy this summer. Great stuff. Watch it. Check it out. Watch it. Kind of struggling with work, trying to get everything done, crammed in, get some things done. I recently, in my life, I have a wrestling ring that goes with the wrestling promotion I run. I had a place to store it with a organization that sold the building to another organization. That organization told me it was fine to leave the ring there, until one day I went to pick it up and the wall was walled in. The door that went to the room the wrestling ring was in was walled over. And that's the only way to get down there. And it thankfully wasn't totally, it was just a piece of drywall drilled over it. So I had to take the drywall off with the help of a carpenter that was working there, get down there to get to the ring, do the show, bring it back. And was then informed the next week that it was fine. They were going to build a new door. It was all going to be good. And then the day after they told me that, I was told that, nope, they're walling up the basement for some reason, and I can't get down there to get my ring anymore. So I had to move it out within a week. So I was struggling, found a place to move it. Thankfully, I got a lovely community of people that reached out to try to help, and someone with a warehouse gave me some space. So the ring is stored there for now, but it's only temporary. I'm supposed to have a more permanent home, hopefully available soon, but it's not ready yet, so I'm kind of struggling to find a place to put it. So working on it, and that's kind of a big headache for me right now. So once I get that sorted, I'll be a much happier person. But hopefully you're doing well. Hopefully your summer's going well. Things are good. And if it's summer where you are, I hope there are people listening in places of the world where it's not summer. But in Nova Scotia here, we have a big ban on where you can't go into the woods, you can't go camping unless it's at a campground, trails, parks. They're all closed to reduce the possibility of forest fires, because it's really dry. We haven't had a lot of rain yet this year, and we need to do all we can to prevent forest fires, which are dangerous. Wildfires are insane in parts of Canada. There is a couple going on in around Halifax area, Nova Scotia right now, not near me, but still scary. So people are out there combating that, and the government's doing what they can to try to reduce the chance of it happening. And unfortunately, it's impacting a lot of social things like festivals and stuff like that. But yeah, it's the nature of this ever evolving, scary world we live in, and we got to get our crap together and try to fix some of these problems instead of arguing about stupid shit on social media. So let's do that. And also, let's listen to this episode with Jason Narvaez. Very cool chat, very cool guy. And here it is, my talk with Jason Narvaez. You guys, you're in New York, is that right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, my house is in Jersey, but my office is in New York.
Ah, right on.
And I'm in New York, so you'll find that any New Yorker living in Jersey is always going to make a point to say that I'm from New York, actually.
That's an important distinction. Is that really is it that big of a I live in Canada. I'm in Nova Scotia, so
Yeah.
is that a big distinction about people like New Yorkers? Like, is it an offense to be called a New Jersey person if you're
It's
in
not,
New York?
it all depends, I guess. As a teenager, it probably is more of an offense, but as a full-grown adult, it's not an offense. It's just a very important distinction that we feel we have to make.
Excellent. How's the weather there? You guys in the middle of a heat wave too, aren't you?
Yeah, yeah, it's actually quite warm, but it was worse, far worse, the last week or the week before, where we were kind of hovering close to 100. I think we actually hit 100, and it was super humid, and it was there. It's pretty yucky.
Yeah, it's
My
rough.
dog is it? Sorry, excuse me.
Oh no, it's
Yeah.
all good. I've many cats that'll probably interrupt. You can see one
All right, cool.
right there on the floor. There's one by my foot right
Oh,
now.
there it is.
Yeah,
Yep, that's it.
there's four of them around, and they generally make an appearance at some point. So,
This guy might pop in every now and then.
oh, quite all right. Awesome. Well, thanks for being on the show, Jason. It's an honor to have you on.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Anyone even wants to have any questions to ask me?
Sure. Well, I like the show kind of started originally as it was sort of like I would do like the histories of comic book characters. So like, if the Winter Soldier showed up in something, you'd be like, well, here's his story, his history.
Yeah.
And then I would sort of break it up every once in a while with an interview. And then I realized that it was a lot of work to do the comic histories, and the interviews were way funner. So I just said, I'm just going to do the interviews from now on instead. And anybody that does art or anything. And it's funny because often when I chat with people, they say, they'll be like, oh, I don't want to get into the weeds. And I'm like, this show is the weeds. Go get into the weeds. Let's go. Yeah, just getting to know you as a person, and usually getting out into the weeds is where you kind of figure that out. So awesome. So are you born in New York then?
Yes, I was. Yes,
Yeah.
born in the Bronx. Raised in New York. I think I had a 2-year stint as a kid in Florida, but other than that, just New York completely. Just
So
moved out here to Jersey a month before our kids were born.
Oh,
We had
wow.
twins. Yeah, so we've been out here 16 years now.
Wow. What brought you to New York as a kid? Or sorry, to Florida as a kid?
It was in Orlando actually,
Yeah. Was your dad
and I was like fourth and fifth grade. Yeah, that's about it.
was it like your parents' work or something?
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly what it was. It was my mother actually got a job down there. Plus, we had my aunt was down there at the time, and my cousin. So it was great to spend so much time with them. And Florida, I really liked as a kid.
Yeah.
It didn't have the quite the reputation it has now at that time. Uh,
Hey, I
but
like Florida.
I had a lot of fun. It was a great 2 years. Played baseball at that time, and yeah, I had a great time. I had a great time.
What did your mom do that took her down there?
My mother was a legal secretary.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, she ended up getting a decent job at that time down there.
Mhm.
Was down there a couple of years, and then came back up to New York at the beginning of sixth grade for me.
Oh.
I remember that detail very clearly because sixth grade was, I believe, I was in 3 different schools in sixth grade.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, it started in Florida, moved back to the Bronx. We lived with my grandmother while my mother looked for an apartment. And so while we were living with my grandmother, I was in one school. Then my mother found an apartment, moved there, took me to a third school. Um,
That's a lot of schooling, especially from what I understand. Like the school systems in different states are drastically different. So,
yeah, they are.
uh,
They are very different. Yeah,
that'd
but
be
it was Catholic school, so that kind of kept everything fairly
oh,
distant. Yeah, yeah,
that's a whole other
yeah.
ball. That's a whole other ball of
That's a
wax.
whole other thing. Yes, yes.
Were was your family like really religious, or is it just?
No, it's a Puerto Rican family, and Catholicism is just a part of it.
Hmm.
Uh, uh, I've been a bad Catholic since. Um,
I've met very
every
few good ones. So,
yeah, if
yeah.
I go into a if I go to a church now, I'm kind of always
So,
take it out on.
were both your like you didn't mention your dad, so I'm guessing he wasn't in the picture.
No,
Um,
yeah, he wasn't. He was in and out of the picture. Let's put it that way.
I see.
Um, yeah, he wasn't there for particularly long stretches of time, but he was in and out.
And were both your folks from Puerto Rico?
They actually were. They both
No.
came over when they were very young, though. So you wouldn't be able to. They don't have any accents or anything. If anything, my mother has a Brooklyn accent because that's where she grew up.
That's sweet.
Yeah, but they were both born technically when my father came over when he was like 3,
Oh wow.
and my mother was 6 or 7 or something. So they're pretty much New Yorkers through and through as well.
Nice. That's what I like about
Yeah,
the New York. I mean, recently it seems to be a point of contention, but that's what I used to always love about the American sort of thing. It seems like, um, people from all eras, no matter where they come from, kind of, you could be like Puerto Rican born, but you're American. You speak,
yeah,
like people from all different walks of life, from all different parts of the world, tend to come in and sort of get sort of integrated into the melting pot.
yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
you know,
And growing up in New York, it's just it was just a part of life. I mean, seeing people of all different colors and tons of diversity, and it was just it wasn't you know a political thing
mhm.
that that's turned into nowadays.
Yeah.
It was just was I grew up around black people and Asians, and uh, my cousin is half Jewish.
Mhm.
So it's like just these are just other people around me. That's pretty
Yeah,
much it. That's
which is the way it should be considered.
yes,
So
yes,
like, I think it was, I don't remember who said it. Somebody said like I feel like it might have been Anthony Bourdain. I don't know if that's true. It's probably someone even further back than that said like the cure to racism is travel. Like
yeah,
just get out
yeah.
and
It
see
sounds
what the
like
rest
something.
of the world is. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
so
in a place like New York, you don't need to because like it's almost like the world comes to you. There's so many different
yeah,
representations of all these different people that you kind of just go at your door and go to a local market and you'll see people from all walks of life and realize that they all have the same problems as you and, are just people.
yeah, very
But,
true.
I think politically they get demonized because they need something to misdirect or at least,
Yes,
yeah, or blame all the problems on.
yes.
And unfortunately, that's the way the system seems to be currently.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
were you always into art as a kid, like comics, art, that sort of thing?
Yeah, I was always doodling at the very least and comics. I had an older cousin who introduced me to comics really, and he collected. So he was my gateway drug. And
Everybody has one in their family usually. Like
yeah,
when I talk to
yeah,
people, there's usually always someone. It's an uncle, a cousin, like a weird uncle, a cool cousin, somebody that had a
yeah,
stack of comics or records or old movie love of old sci-fi movies or something. It's always something like that.
yeah. And my cousin was really into it. Like he was into comics. Obviously, I was just being introduced into
Mm.
it, but at the time, now I know, going back, he was really into like he read a lot of Jim Starlin, a lot of Dread stuff.
Oh, beautiful!
Uh,
I'm a huge
you
fan.
know, I remember his collection of the Marvel graphic novels.
Hmm.
Beginning with the death of Captain Marvel.
Oh, the
Um,
oversized ones. Yeah, those are cool.
yeah, those he had all those, and I was in awe of those. But my earliest comic memory is an X-Men issue. God, I wish I could remember the number. I should have looked that up. Um, it had, I believe it had Colossus and Juggernaut fighting on the cover. It was a Dave Cockrum issue. Um, and what stood out for me in that issue was Nightcrawler because he fell unconscious and half of him was looked like it was missing. So I
Mm.
thought at the time, because I was a kid, I was like, wow, this guy just kind of fell in half. Something, off. And so I was kind of disturbed by him. And then there's his look and all of that stuff. But I have a very distinct memory of that particular issue. It was Black Tom Cassidy was in it. Yeah, I really should have looked up that number before.
Oh, that's all right. It's a solid.
Yeah,
I wish I could tell you too. I think I can picture the cover in my head, but I can't tell you the number
yeah,
either.
yeah.
It's funny. A lot of people like lately. It seems like when I talk to folks in the show, it's X-Men. Like almost like, and perhaps
Yeah.
it's because some of them are the Davin, who I think probably reached out to you first. He's like a huge X-Men fan, so maybe that's how he's come to some of them. But it seems like a lot of them have a lot of early X-Men sort of inspiration. So,
Yeah. It was the X-Men and Superman also. I mean, the movie probably had the biggest impact on me.
oh really?
Back in '78. Yeah, that movie had a tremendous impact. Yeah, I was probably walking out of the theater. I remember trying to curl my hair. Um, what kid didn't want to be Superman at that time? And the movie was so well made um, that it really imprinted. Uh, in terms of I think that a friend of mine on the Turtles actually mentioned to me, he's like, so what were your like favorite movies growing up? And I mentioned Superman the movie was by far
Mhm.
the most important for me. Conan the Barbarian is actually up there
Oh, yeah.
too.
John Milius,
Um,
yeah.
and he kind of said that he noticed he's like, oh, so you kind of like movies that are kind of more grounded. And I was like,
Mm.
yeah, I guess I do. And Superman played a big part of that. Plus all the other movies that my father had taken me around that time, um, many of which I was far too young to see, but
Mhm.
I'm grateful for it
Oh, that's
because
awesome. I love that,
yeah,
man. Yeah.
I was terrified. See, watching The Fog and Dawn of the Dead,
Nice.
all these
Oh man,
kids,
your dad's
kids.
cool.
Yeah, it was great. That part was great. It was
Yeah.
fantastic.
I love that when
Um,
people like, because I grew up in that sort of era of like, I mean, I'll be 40 in a month. So like when I was a kid, it was like my parents, like I grew up in a very small area. So um,
yeah,
they, I see Frodo coming. This Frodo.
yeah,
He's got the cerebellar hypophasia, it's called. It's like when he was born, his mom was sick, so his motor functions didn't quite develop correctly. He's totally not in pain. He's totally smart. He's like a normal cat in every way. It's just when he walks, he kind of wobbles. So
oh, okay.
they call it drunken kitten syndrome. It's kind of like they're drunk
Uh,
when they walk.
I thought he just
So
happened to just wake up.
yeah, well, it could be that too, but he does have a bit of a wobble to him.
Okay.
Yeah, like so I grew up in that era where the video store was king, right? Like you would, and your parents would be like, ah, this looks fine, here you go. And you just watch at a friend's place or whatever. I remember I watched Conan when I was way too young because
Yeah.
like my when it got to the opening scene where they throw the slave girl at him to be like, here's
Oh yeah. Yeah.
and she's naked. I remember my cousin was like, oh, like, and his parents were like, we didn't realize that. We just thought it was a comic book thing. Here's Conan, whatever, right?
Yeah, no,
But
my mother's the one that actually took me to see that one. She had
nice.
no idea what she was getting into. Absolutely no clue.
Yeah,
And I just remember her
remember
trying to cover my eyes every now and then.
yeah,
But yeah, I actually do remember seeing that.
that's awesome.
But yeah, Superman probably had the biggest impact.
I like
And
that you mentioned that they were the grounded sort of like the sci-fi
yeah,
stuff that was sort of a little more grounded. I mean, Superman obviously is kind of fantastical, but also the story was a little more down to earth. Same with
yeah,
Conan. It's funny that like the grounded you like them because they're a little more grounded, but then the sequels got way off the
oh,
wall.
God,
Like the second Conan is insane. It's just basically
yeah. I
like
was very I remember being very disappointed because I love the first one so much.
yeah.
And Conan was with the advent of VHS, Conan was one movie when it came on HBO. HBO was the big thing back then. I would
Mhm.
just record movies, and Conan was one I would just watch over and over again. Sometimes the entire film. A lot of times I would just watch the ending two battle scenes.
Yeah.
One when they go into the cave to rescue the princess, and the other, two stood against many.
Mhm.
And that I couldn't even count. I mean, at least 100 times.
Nice.
I've seen those kind of scenes. And so going to see Conan the Destroyer, yeah, that was very disappointing. Superman 2, I remember really loving.
Mm.
Um, that I had also seen quite a few times. Um, and yeah, I think, watching the making of Superman, Richard Donner used the word verisimilitude. My God, I can't speak. Um, and that made sense to me.
Mm.
He was striving for kind of a realism with it.
Mm.
And I definitely you feel that you can feel that in the film,
Yeah, I often
especially
just call it heart, but it's true. Like if it feels like it has it, and
yeah,
that's why, like, I've talked rather publicly with friends and on here about how much I like the new Superman movie, and it's because it felt like it,
yeah,
although it's fantastical and it feels like I'm watching a comic book. I often said that it feels like some of the modern movies, like the new Superman and the new Fantastic Four movie, aren't apologizing for being comics, which I really like.
right,
Like, some of them seem to almost apologize as to where they come from and be like, "Well, we know
right,
it's a comic. We're going to do away with some of the sillier elements," but some of them embrace
yeah,
it, and I really like when they embrace it, but still find a way. I think Gunn is really good at this, and still finding a way to like
he did-
find the heart and the humanness of it.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
like,
He's great.
well, his the Suicide Squad movie. I said to a friend, I said, like, because he asked me how it was. I said, like, I love that movie, like his version of the Suicide Squad. I
Yeah,
said, like, I'm in the theater watching a bunch of criminals fight a giant starfish, and I was like,
yeah,
I had tears running down my face because that sequence where Ratcatcher explains why her dad picked rats because like they're sort of pathetic and no one likes them, and if you can redeem them, then we all have a chance. And it was such a
yeah,
human concept. I was like, oh my
yeah.
God, it's so
And that's
beautiful.
what Gunn is so good at. He's so
Yeah,
good at
yeah.
that. Watching his movies and his interviews. He obviously is a big part of the geek culture.
Oh yeah.
Um, yeah, yeah, his offbeat characters. All the people that the outcasts, etc.
Mhm.
Um, and because I moved around a lot growing up, I mean, I told you my sixth grade story, but
Mhm.
previous to that, before moving to Florida, I was basically in a different school first through fourth grade. Um, and so I was always kind of the new kid. I was always the new kid. I was always the one that was a little bit, and because I was always the new kid, and I was a solo, I was an only child until I was 8, and my sister came along. But those first 8 years, it was just me most of the time, and that's where comic books and sketching and doodling and all of that really set me apart from most of my other classmates.
Mhm.
Um, it was the one thing that kind of uh, that I gravitated towards. My mother said I was a dream in that she could leave me alone for hours. And as long as I had something to draw on or comic books around or something with pictures, she could leave me alone for hours. I was totally fine. I was very happy with that. Um, and so, I guess I always had that kind of feeling of an outcast without really paying much attention to it or thinking about it much. And that's what I think James Gunn is very good at tapping into.
Mhm.
Um, those people that uh, always feel like they're not quite there, not quite in the middle of it all.
Yeah.
So yeah,
And
yeah, he's
then
a man
yeah.
with it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think Guardians tapped into that a lot. It's sort of like the found family sort of idea that you like. You sort of
Yeah,
find your tribe, in whatever way
yeah,
you can.
absolutely.
Which I think he does really well at. But
Yeah.
what was the plan? Like as you were drawing and getting a little older, was the plan art? Was that always the dream as a kid?
I did kind of feel at some point, just very matter of factly, that I'll end up in comics somehow.
Hmm.
Um, Someday it'll just happen. There definitely was not a plan. Um, and I think also finding out that George Perez, who happened to become my favorite artist very quickly, and much later on, I found out he was also a Puerto Rican kid from the Bronx. So he was my anchor in a way, um, to feeling like, oh, I probably could do it. Maybe I could end up, in the industry somehow. Um, but I definitely never, there was never any actual plan. I did end up at the High School of Art and Design, which was in Manhattan. So that was me, the Bronx kid getting out of the Bronx and into Manhattan. So I had to take the subway when I was 13, 14, to get into school. And the really cool, unique thing about that, I remember not wanting to go just because all of my friends were at the local high school and I just wanted to
Mm.
be with my friends.
Yeah.
Um, but my mother's like, get your ass on that train. You're going to school in Manhattan. And one great thing about that was that there were kids from all of the boroughs, just, coming into the centralized location in the middle of Manhattan. And so that's how I made friends. My high school friends they were from Queens, the Bronx, Staten Island, all over the place. And that was a really cool, unique experience. It really was. Uh, and so that's where the art That's where you discover, you find out that, even though I may have been by far the best artist in my elementary school,
Hmm.
I was now in a place where, wow, these guys are really, really good.
Hmm.
They're fantastic artists there. I was never discouraged by it. It was always just like, wow, this guy's great. I love it. I want to see more of their work. Um, and and that's how it was with comics. And they had like a little comic club um, that I would partake in a little bit because they would meet sometimes much later in the afternoon, and I just I had quite a trek to get back to the Bronx, so I wasn't
Hmm.
always available to meet those. But that's where I first started hearing people talking out loud about these names that I grew up reading.
Hmm.
So they would talk about John Byrne. John Byrne's taking over the Hulk. And one guy would complain about, oh, look, this pose he used in X-Men here, blah 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 blah. And it's like, that what you're focusing on, man? I love the Hulk run. I
Yeah.
really did love that Hulk run.
Oh,
But
I will tout how great John Byrne is to the rest of my. He's great.
yeah,
I actually recently reread
as well.
his, yes, Canadian as well. Yeah.
Yeah,
I also reread, I think his Thing series, like the 12 issue Thing
yeah,
series he did. And that's great, man. Like,
yeah, it was.
talk about heart. That issue with like the kid that's like a mutant and the whole town kind of turns on him. And then
Yeah,
the
wow.
thing leaves him with the Inhumans on the moon, and he says there's no monsters on the moon, and the monsters are the people in his town. Like, it's
Yeah,
just so
yeah,
good. It was so good. It was
yeah,
such a heartfelt sort of stuff, and all of his stuff is great. I went on a kick where Marvel put a lot of his omnibuses of his stuff, and
yeah,
I snatched up a bunch of it. Like I think I have the Fantastic Four one, the Submariner one, the Alpha Flight one, which also is obviously near and dear to me for Canadian reasons, and
yeah, yeah. I loved his album.
yeah.
I really did.
So there's a lot of good stuff out there, and he's and now with like the Marvel app, you can just like the Unlimited app. I downloaded it and I started following it just because I have like a library built in my house, and it's getting crammed, like crammed. So
Yeah,
I'm like, well,
yeah,
at least this way I can go back and reread all the stories and maybe
yeah.
not have
I
to.
ran into the inventory problem
Yeah.
with my comic boxes.
Yeah.
I had easily over 20 at one point, and they
Hmm.
just had to go. If
Hmm.
my kids were young, and so I was bringing more and more of their crap into the house. And I, in a way, luckily, a majority of those comics, there was a lot of crap in there that I could have easily just gotten rid of. So that's what I did. I had to weed it out. Um, a lot of it was 90s, which is odd because the 90s is when I stopped collecting for a
Oh,
while.
really?
Yeah, because I graduated high school in 89, went to college and discovered girls.
Hmm.
So it was just, it was
Comics
a
got put aside for a little while.
comics got put aside, way
Yeah.
aside, and the college life and having lots of fun. And yeah, I totally forgot about comics and drawing. And I did get sidetracked for quite some time there.
What did you take in
Uh,
college?
Uh, I would take whatever people would suggest to me. I was very, very lost for a while.
Hmm.
Later on, I found out that I had ADD and
Okay.
that's what contributed to a lot of it. Um, I didn't discover that until I was in my late 20s. So I took like business administration, uh, psychology, which I actually found very interesting at that time.
Hmm.
Uh, Eventually, through school, I would drop out, go to a different school, go over there for a semester or two, drop out. Eventually, I discovered Emerson College in Boston, and I attended that school for a year um, before I dropped out again. Uh, I mean, and film, I discovered, film is my other passion.
Hmm.
Comics are one, film is the other one. Um, and I found out that a lot of that stuff kind of came. I had a natural affinity for it and understanding of it because of the amount of times I would watch movies. I wouldn't just watch it once, as I'm sure you can attest.
Oh yeah, I'm a big
Uh,
movie guy too.
yeah, yeah. So you watch these things, and I would just absorb everything. Raiders of the Lost Ark, Jaws. I mean, I'd seen all that stuff. Even the movies that scarred me as a kid, I loved those. Again, Dawn of the Dead. I was far too young to see that.
Oh, I just rewatched it again recently. They had I've always been a huge fan of it, and they did at a theater in Halifax, which is about an hour from where I live. They showed it again recently on the big screen. So I
Awesome.
was like, well, this is my chance to go see it. I had to go. So and
That's
it's still fantastic. It's such a great movie.
It really is. It's
Yeah.
so well made. Whether they're blue or green or whatever skin color they were, it didn't matter. It was just a fantastic, fantastic movie.
Oh
I
yeah.
loved it.
And just
Um,
like the sort of I know a lot of people say like I know George Romero is very self-deprecating when it comes to people asking him like why did you choose this? Why did you choose that? He's like, well, that's the best actor. Like, why did you choose the black guy for the first one? It's like, well, he was the best actor, and then it's like, well, the second one, it's obviously like a big and he always sort of downplays how much the second one was sort of an obvious sort of commentary on consumerism and our
yeah,
obsession with places like the mall.
yeah,
And on how all these people are like just the one thing in their memory after they're dead is to go back to the mall and
yeah,
sort
yeah.
of, and even scenes like I remember one time I was like a younger kid after I'd seen it. And I was in like a Walmart or something, and they had like the bin of Blu-rays. And I remember, and I collect Blu-rays and stuff this long before I did that. And there was like people just pawing through it, like four or five of them. And I had a flash of like the zombies going through, like, somebody's body, ripping them to shreds.
Yeah,
And I was like, I just sort of like flashed in my head about how the connection point to those two. And it always sort of
yeah,
stuck with me.
yeah. Because
Yeah.
when you see it as when you're much younger, that kind of stuff doesn't hit you.
Yeah.
It's just zombies and gross stuff and cool stuff and
Hmm.
all. And then that's what makes a movie great to me is that upon repeat viewings, you find something new about
Oh
it.
yeah, 100%. I even just watched, I host movies at a bar. It's like a movie night once a month. So
That's awesome.
we did the movie Election last night, the Alexander Payne movie. And
And then
oh yeah, I mean it's excellent. If you like Sideways or his other movies or The Holdovers, definitely check it out. It's by far
okay,
my favorite Matthew Broderick movie, and I'm aware
okay,
that Ferris Bueller exists, but this one is, in my opinion, better. Uh,
excellent.
and Reese Witherspoon's in it when she was pretty young. I think she plays like a teenager, but I think she's in her early 20s, and
Wow.
it's sort of an allegory for the American political system based around a high school election.
Oh,
But it's very like at the time
writing this
the
now, by
movie's made in 99, so
the way.
but
Okay.
it's excellent. And there's all these things that when you get older, when I first watched the movie, there's some key comedy points that make you really laugh. But then you get a little older and you have a little more life experience, you kind of realize how much more funnier it is on a human level, but like all these stupid human things that people go through and how petty people are and like all this stuff. And also like the editing, which is something I'll
Yeah,
be interested to talk to you about with your history of storyboarding because
yeah,
like there's all these like amazing smash cuts when like a guy's kind of basically suddenly faced with the realization of something he did wrong and everybody now knows about it. And they do this thing where they flash on everybody's faces and it gets faster and faster until it's almost just a single screen until it
yeah,
comes
yeah, yeah.
back to him. And it's just like very cool. Like and stuff that you don't appreciate when you're younger, but when you're
Right.
you like it, but when you get older, you're like, oh, this is why I like it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's so
You're
well
not sure.
edited.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely,
So,
absolutely.
so did you go like when you discovered that you had an affinity for the film side of things? Was that like right into storyboarding, or was there a process?
That was no, around the same time when I moved back to New York from Boston. My mother, being a legal secretary, one of the company that she worked for was a really big law firm in New York at
Hmm.
that time. And basically, she was able to get me an interview with someone at DC who turned out
Wow.
to be Joe Orlando, who was vice president at that time, I think,
Oh
or
wow.
maybe, yeah, yeah. And I was so not ready. I didn't have a full portfolio. I had some scattered drawings here and there. Um, and but he did meet with me, which was fantastic. And I remember him looking at it and there was some relief in that he could tell he's like, all right, you love this stuff. You understand comics. You love it. You can't draw yet. You're not there. But the one thing he pointed out to me that I found very encouraging was that he said, your storytelling is actually very good.
Hmm.
He said, even though you can't draw, I can still follow everything that's going on the page. And so that always stayed with me. I had also had other friends kind of tell me that they liked my storytelling, and that was just he I remember him saying he's like that's something that's probably the hardest thing to teach.
Hmm.
And he said you eventually you can learn how to draw. He said, but the storytelling part is so innate. He said,
Hmm.
not that people can't learn it, but he said it's far more difficult to teach it.
Yeah.
Um, and I just
Well,
had a really good feel for it.
I think it was
So I was,
Hitchcock that said you should be able to like mute a movie and still be able to tell what's going on.
yes, yeah, absolutely.
And I've always sort of agreed with that. You if the story if you can't get a feel for the story without the words, then you know. So
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
awesome.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Wow.
Sorry, once my dog is just being really desperate
It's
for
okay,
my.
no worries. Go ahead.
Can you uh why don't you go find one of your siblings and let them walk you? So Joe was great because Joe then I remember he took me to see Brian Augustin. He's like, I'm gonna take you to one of my editors. They're gonna set you up with a script so that you can do some sample pages and then you come back to us. So he set me up with Brian Augustin, um, who at that time was editing The Flash and no, not Green Lantern. Anyway, I think he was editing The Flash and a few other things. And he in turn um, he said, "All right, here's Ruben Diaz, my assistant," and Ruben ended up giving me some a script to draw of I think it was a Superman or Green Lantern issue, um, and I was like, "Oh, this is great. That's great. I'll do that. Thanks." And they were really really nice and courteous, especially to a kid that couldn't draw.
Mhm.
Um, and it took me forever to do most of those pages. And again, this is before I discovered I had ADD.
Mm.
And I couldn't figure out why I was struggling so much getting this stuff finished.
Yeah.
It's very, very difficult for me to sit down and just do it.
Mm.
Um, and I really struggled with that. And so that was one of many opportunities that I blew at that time.
No.
I was like in my early 20s. Um, and there was a cycle of blowing of missed opportunities, let's say. Um, but uh, that it also kind of cemented to me that this is something that people can actually do. These comics don't just appear out of nowhere.
Mm.
It is a business, and it is something that if I dedicate myself to, I may have a decent chance at doing it.
Mhm.
Um, and then I went promptly right back to girls again and, odd job. It was later on when I discovered that I did have ADD. And I found out what that was, and a light bulb went off. I was like, oh, wow, that's me. And I started going to therapy for it. Eventually started taking medication for it. And that changed my life around completely. It was a
Really?
180 turnaround. That was when I said, you know what, I'm going to give this comic book thing one last chance, really, really try it. And for 3 years, I just practiced drawing. I actually like dedicate, I asked myself a question: can I say that I've really done everything I can
Mm.
to get in? And the answer was no. I've kind of half-assed it.
Mm.
Uh, and so I spent 3 years just really dedicating myself to learning how to draw, going to conventions. Um, and I would go up to artists. I would ask people to review my portfolio, but uh, the main thing that I would tell them is like just tell me what I'm doing wrong,
Mhm.
and I would say that to them because I wanted to get better, and I knew I
Yeah.
wasn't there. Uh, and I think the problem with a lot of artists that want to break in want to hear how good they are when they bring up their portfolios, and I didn't want to hear that because I knew I wasn't good enough,
Mm.
and I wanted to get better. And I said, "Can you just tell me what I'm doing wrong?"
Well, it takes the onus off them to try to like sugarcoat it to not make you feel bad too,
Exactly,
right?
and that
Yeah.
was that was the other thing I wanted to avoid. I was like,
Yeah.
"Look, just it's okay. I'm a grown up. I can take it."
Yeah.
Um, and they were, comic professionals are by and large fantastic people. They're
Hmm.
they're they're wonderful. They're nice. Uh, I could relate to them a great deal, and I did. I received some really great tips. Eventually, who was it? Stelfreeze, Brian Stelfreeze. He basically in like 10 minutes, I feel, because I had always heard that he's like, go see Brian Stelfreeze. He'll be able to really give you a good critique. And in like 5 minutes, he basically helped me completely change my approach to drawing, to putting an image on the page.
Really?
Um,
Wow.
yeah, yeah, because he saw my drawings and what a lot of my drawings were, he's like, your rendering's actually really good. You can do this very well. Um, but he said, let me guess, you kind of start with a body part and extend your drawing out from there. And I was like, yeah, that is pretty much the way I do it. And he said, he's like, just try and picture a silhouette first. Try and picture the full drawing on the page first in your mind's eye, and try and get that outline down and fit your drawing inside there. And for me, that was like groundbreaking
Mm.
at that time. I had never had anyone mention that to me.
Well, the fact you could pick up right off the get-go how you
And
did it just based on how you
guy
drew, how
was
you started.
so sharp, man.
Yeah.
I'd always heard that about him, that he could do that, and he did it for me. He's like, "All right,
Wow.
this is your kryptonite. Go work on that." And I did, and it made a huge difference.
Wow.
And yeah, so 3 years after I started doing that convention circuit, I had a friend of mine who was in the animation business, and he was working on Turtles, and he told me that there was an opening for a storyboard revisionist, and he said you have to take a test, and I said, okay, let me get the test. So I got that, and I had 3 weeks to do work on a storyboard, a sample. The first week I was full of self doubt, didn't even do anything. But second week, those last 2 weeks, I ended up doing everything I could, and luckily, the director at the time was Chuck Patton, who I know
Oh,
you've
yeah.
interviewed,
Yep.
and luckily he gave me a shot. He's like, "All right, I think you could do this," and that was it for me. The rest is history. Is on the
That's
Turtles and living a dream.
that's awesome. Chuck's great.
Yeah.
Did you have like an affinity for the turtles? I guess like when you mentioned your age, I'm assuming that you kind of missed it when you were growing up a little bit.
Yeah, they were on TV in the 80s. That's in their initial Cowabunga pizza and all that
Yeah.
stuff. So I was not. I knew their names only because, I know they were named after the Renaissance artists.
Yeah.
I didn't
Culturally, it
know
was kind of hard to avoid at that point,
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. But I didn't know which one was which until I started on the show. And then, because I was really getting into the scripts and everything, and I grew to love them. I love the Turtles, and it's not that I didn't like them before. I just wasn't that I wasn't that into it. I wasn't paying attention at that time.
Yeah, I talked
Um,
to another gentleman, storyboarder, David Cullen, who he worked for Marvel a little bit, doing a few little gag issues in what the magazine.
mhm.
Yeah, sort of the what if sort of comedy spinoff, and
Yeah,
he had
yeah.
worked with Robert Eggers on The Lighthouse.
Oh, wow.
When they filmed at Nova Scotia, and he lives here, so I guess he had gotten it through them, and he was just telling me some of the stories about like how that particular project, as all the storyboards he did. I think he worked on like the Books of Blood, which is the Clive Barker miniseries, and a few other things.
Yeah.
But he said that of all the people he'd worked with, like that movie was the closest to the storyboard. So he worked very close with Eggers on it.
Mhm.
So that must be interesting to you as a storyboard artist, like as you're getting into that and working on that series. Like, do they adhere very closely to what you provide, or is it always somewhere in between, in the middle, or is it?
The animation, you mean?
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. We would there was a running joke about the different because the animation studio at that time was Dongwoo, and every animation house has their own. They have teams of
yeah.
artists, um, and with the turtles when we were storyboarding, basically ended up we had two storyboard artists on each issue. Um, like one half is done by one, etc. And so my partner and I, we would joke how we seem to always get the F team. We it's the A team, the B team, um, and the animation we would get, it was always very hit or miss.
Mm.
Occasionally we get the A team, and well, not us, but somebody in one of the storyboard groups would end up getting the A team. I don't think we ever did get the A team. I think the best was B. Um, but
Me and Davin do a podcast, another one that's about the X-Men cartoon from the 90s.
yeah,
And
yeah,
we often talk about how you can really tell when we call them the A team, the B team, and then towards the end of the series, the C team, because you can
yeah,
really tell when they have the A team, and then sometimes you get the B team, and you're like, oh,
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. So the A team would do not only match you, but they would improve upon it.
hmm
The animation would go very smooth, and you'd be like, "Oh my God, I love the change that they made on this." And then other times it was like, "No," like, "Oh, okay, yeah, at least I'm on TV."
yeah, fair enough.
Something I did is on TV. So, um, but yeah, that whole thing, it was a incredible, great learning experience because before that. I had been working for a consulting firm. I was managing their graphic design department,
Yeah.
um, and print department, and so it was definitely a more business culture.
Hmm.
I remember when my first day, I went in there dressed business casual. Um, and I was introduced to all the artists there, and it felt like I was in high school again in a way because there's one guy wearing flip flops, uh, another guy
Yeah.
that's like, oh yeah, this is Ed, our main storyboard artist, and Ed was sleeping. Basically, passed out, sit back, and pulled their hair, and I was like, wow, it's like this is very different from what I've
These
been
are
doing.
the artists. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm a graphic
completely.
designer by day. That's my day normal job.
Oh
So
yeah, so
yeah.
that's what I did for a while.
Yeah.
Um, if you love the stuff, I think you always have at least one toe kind of dipped into art in some way.
Oh yeah,
Um,
100%.
always. And so yeah, it was a not real eye opener, and it was the best job I've ever had, hands down, hands
Awesome.
down. The camaraderie was fantastic
Hmm.
between the production staff and all the artists, um, and it was such a new experience for me that I was a late bloomer. I started doing that at the age of 32.
Hmm.
There were a lot of guys, a lot of people there my age, around my age, but they had been doing this stuff at that point almost 10 years.
Hmm.
Uh, so
But that's good.
uh,
Gives you like a resource to talk. If you're when you're figuring stuff out, you have a lot of people around you that you could probably go
yeah,
to for advice.
yeah, I was able to ask questions, and I was so into it. Whereas there may have been some people because they've been doing this for so long, we're kind of
Hmm. A
just
little
another day.
jaded.
Yeah, yeah.
You didn't have time
And
to
for
get jaded yet.
Yeah, yeah. And then for me, it was like, look, I'm in heaven right now. I've never had a job like this. And, I could work 10, 12, 14 hours and not even blink.
Hmm.
It didn't feel like work. It never felt like work to me.
That's awesome.
Uh, yeah,
Well, on the
it was,
storyboard side of things, must is I think in animation would probably be a little more rewarding because it's you're drawing one picture instead of the standard animation style where you draw
yeah,
was it
yeah.
like six for a second or a minute.
Yeah. And that's
Um,
why I never even considered working in animation at that because I thought I would have to actually animate. And I
mm,
knew I didn't have the patience to be drawing 24, you know, pictures in a second. There's like,
yeah.
no way. There's no way I can do that. Um, no way I'd want to really do that. So storyboards were the closest I could possibly get to that. And
Mm.
it wasn't as tedious. I mean, storyboarding is a ton of work,
Oh yeah, 100%.
not to take anything away from that because it really is. At the end of the day, you'll have a stack of pages to kind of prove how much work you've been doing. But it's not animating. It's
Mm,
not, like I said, drawing 24 images just to make up 1 second. I couldn't do that. So
mm.
it was a sweet spot for me.
Yeah,
And plus, I didn't have to worry about drawing exactly on model. My lines didn't have to be perfect, um, which I also had to learn kind of to do because previous to that, it was always, you do a drawing and it's precious and you try to make it look as nice as you possibly can. And on that job, I learned is like, look, just do the drawing. Don't stress so much about it.
yeah. It's not the
And
finished work, so it's just part of the
Right,
process.
right. And even then, even when I did finish something, I was able to learn that it's okay I'm not quite crazy, but I could just take it, throw it aside, and begin again, start over
Mm,
again like it's nothing. And that was by far the most important lesson. Besides learning how to draw on the job, I feel like I definitely got much better because it's one thing to be practicing for 3 years, but it's another for to be drawing every day, all day, 10 to 14 hours a day,
hmm.
every single day. You're gonna get you can't help but get better.
Yeah,
You
100%.
help but learn. And plus I had, the benefit of watching all these amazing artists around me, and I was able to ask them questions, and I was able just to watch how their approach, and everyone had drastically different ways of doing things, and their styles were very different. Um, but I learned a lot. A few of those guys had worked at MTV before that. Um, my partner in the episodes, his name was Ed Nebris. Um, he had been actually doing that stuff since his late teens. So he worked on the original uh, Turtles also.
Oh wow.
Uh, yeah, he was able to do that, and he did that while he was on his teens.
Wow.
Um,
I always find it
yeah,
so wild that I think it was like Chuck Lorre was one of the producers of that show. I
Yeah,
think
I
the
think so.
original Turtle show. So it's like just such a wild fact. I mean, not that I'm a huge fan of his comedies, but I'll use
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
quote. But the fact that like, early on, just how varied the Hollywood career is, I guess, when it comes to stuff like that.
Yeah,
That's really wild.
yeah.
Have you ever, and I'm just curious, I don't, just because I would probably do this, have you ever like taken a sequence from like something you love in a movie and sort of subtly slid it into like to something you're working
Uh,
on?
of course. I
Okay,
mean,
cool. Yeah. Awesome.
totally.
Yeah.
You have to you use these inspirations.
Oh, totally.
Uh, there's an episode that I worked on called Prodigal Son, and it was Leonardo had been training with this guy, the Ancient One, and Leo was now uh, basically so much better than his brothers because of this recent training he had done. And there was a sequence that I boarded, which was basically Leo versus about 100 foot ninja by himself. And had him kicking ass, and I drew a big inspiration from Kill Bill for that
Oh,
for
nice.
the sequence, when she's fighting the Crazy 88.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I did. I didn't lift actual phrases, but they were totally inspired by it, and you
Yeah.
can see that. Or you would have been able to if they didn't cut that entire scene. But that's just a part. Yeah, I had a feeling too. It's like you can kind of tell when an episode's running pretty long.
Mhm.
Um, but I was just having so much fun working on that. Um, but yeah, you do your influences. You use your influences, just kind of like with anything. You know,
Yeah,
uh,
100%.
it's been said that every great artist rips off another great artist and that kind of
Yeah.
thing. And yeah, as long as you can make it your own in some way, can you
Like I
please?
want to quote someone else. It might have been Picasso who said, "Great, good artist
Yeah,
borrow, great
sure.
artist steal." Yeah.
Yep, yep,
So
yep. It was.
yeah, 100%. I mean, I think it's insane to think. I mean, in our modern day, every time I see some kind of some kind of new lawsuit about some song that sounds kind of like another song,
Yeah,
and it's like in the day of modern music, and like anything like this,
yeah,
there's so much inspiration from everything. It could be something that was in your head. It could just be a complete coincidence now.
yeah, yeah.
And the idea that like someone's ripping off someone else, unless there's overt evidence that they're doing that, and I guess in the
Yeah.
AI world it could be, but
Yeah,
everyone's so influenced, and you're kind of just the sum of your experiences. So of course, if
totally.
stuff means so much to you and you love it so much, it's going to imprint on you, and you're going to want to celebrate it in your own way, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I kind of see any work of art, um, storyboards, illustrations, what have you. It's if you do it yourself, you're using your inspirations, and it comes out of you. It's going to be your own singular interpretation
Mm,
of how something is going to look. It's your own signature. That's
yeah,
how I liken it. I liken art styles to people's signatures. Your signature is your own. No one's going to write your signature exactly like you. And I feel like that applies to drawing as well. Um, I may try and copy Michael Golden, the way he does his rendering, or John Byrne's storytelling, or George Perez's page design. But I am not them, and so it's not going to come out exactly like them. It's a lot of me is going to come out in that process. And so yeah, I think any good art is kind of that's what it is. It's your signature on you trying to do something else, really. Um, you're trying to imitate somebody else or use an inspiration, but it's going to come out fully you. It
yeah.
should anyway, unless you're copying exactly. And in that case, all right, that's what you need to look at. Stop copying exactly
Hmm.
and just do it. How it might naturally come out of you.
Hmm. That's awesome. Oh, well,
Yeah,
I see you. One of your biggest credits is Yu-Gi-Oh! You've worked on that for a very long time.
very long time.
Yeah, that must have been it must be interesting doing because you worked on several versions of that show.
Yeah, yeah. All the
Uh,
way to, I'm still working on that. Working on Go Rush, Yu-Gi-Oh! Go Rush at the time.
at the moment. Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
So for something like that with such a rabid fan base and doing so much of it, it must have been it must be interesting to see that continue on for as long as it has for over the
Yeah,
years.
look, it's kept me employed, so I'm
Yeah,
very
yeah,
grateful for that. I'm very grateful for that. And that's been a whole other thing, doing mostly post-production work, working with apps like After Effects and Premiere and that kind of stuff. Um, And
See, I was going to
it,
ask you because your title is like on IMDb is digital compositor. So I was wondering what's the difference between like what is that just enhancing the artwork for the finished product?
it is, you know, it's for the most part what I do for Yu-Gi-Oh in particular is not the most creative work for the most
Hmm.
part. Every now and then I get asked to do something that's kind of cool. But for the most part, it's not very particularly creative. It's really just setting up um, a Japanese show for an American audience
Okay.
and doing things like if a sign is in Japanese, taking that out and putting it in English or coming up with an icon that'll represent it.
Hmm.
Because the idea is really not to use so much English because then they're going to try and release this stuff in other countries. Um, so if you can come up with a way to represent something with images, then that's even better.
Mm.
Um, so it's usually things like that, like replacing signs, or occasionally I'll have to make a skirt longer. And
Mm.
so in those cases, I'm actually am animating it. I'm just redrawing that the skirt and making it longer, um, that kind of thing. And that's the majority. And then it's always putting in TV versions of cards, swapping it out with the Japanese cards.
Right.
Uh, that's the majority of that of the Yu-Gi-Oh work.
Yeah,
Um,
interesting.
being that you're Canadian, I actually have a question. Have you are you familiar with the show and or card game Chaotic at all?
I'm familiar with it. I wouldn't
Yeah,
say I know much about it, but yeah.
yeah. And I only asked like that because I know that it did have a big impact in terms of a lot of the fans that followed it were Canadian.
Hmm.
Because it was released in both countries, but uh, it was animated by a Canadian company, Bardell.
Yep.
Um, and so that had I know that did have an impact on
Oh, I remember the card games were huge.
yeah,
Yeah, I forgot they made a show to that actually.
yeah.
And it's funny because, growing up, I wonder what year did this show come out? Uh,
2000,
yeah,
like
that sounds about right.
yeah, 2008.
Uh, yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I do remember it actually, because I used to work when I was in high school in a hobby store that sold
Uh,
comics and like
yeah,
cards, and we sold a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh, a lot of like, the Chaotic cards. I remember when those came out, it was sort of like the new thing, right? For a
yeah,
while.
yeah.
I totally forgot about that. Yeah, very similar.
Yeah. Yeah, that was
I,
actually a fun project. That was a fun one that I worked on.
oh, really?
Uh,
That's awesome. Well,
yeah, I was the art director for the card art itself, and I was one of the associate producer on the show. But my job really for the show was making sure that like character designs kind of matched up with what they look like in the cards.
mm,
Uh, just trying to maintain some kind of consistency with between the two. Um, but yeah, that was actually an interesting project. That was actually more fun than I thought it would be.
yeah, that sounds like it'd be cool. Especially if you get to like designing that would be unique because each, you have such a wide. Every time you need something new and original, you get to create it from scratch. So you have like a lot of
Yeah,
joy from that. Yeah. I
yeah,
just
it was great, and it
aside
was
from.
based on a card game. It was taken from a card game that was created in Denmark. Um, And so there were characters that we would take from that original game, and then upgrade. But my favorite part of that particular project was being able to work with a lot of comic book artists. Because I was art director, uh, and at first the card game, the amount of cards released was a decent amount. Then all of a sudden it ballooned, it started exploding, and they're like, oh, we need a lot more artists. So I had to get in contact with a lot more, find a lot more artists, and the medium that I followed at that time with art was comics, and so I tried to get as many comic book artists involved
Oh,
in that.
cool.
There was one comic book artist who was involved in it before myself, and his name is Kari Randolph. Um, and Kari has worked on a lot of stuff at this point. Um, and he was already kind of working on that. And he was also my gateway to even more comic artists that I didn't know that he did know.
Mhm.
Uh, and I was able just to bring in a lot of work with people that I wouldn't have been able to work with otherwise. And that was a great experience as well, because
Awesome.
I learned a lot of how people uh, would color, some would paint these images, how they would set the images up. I learned a lot from that as well. So I always, you know, I enjoy a job the more I can kind of continue to learn from it. Um, that's a big part of having a really cool job for me. That's what makes it cool.
Yeah, well, obviously, like looking at some of your work, you worked on the Hulk show and the Turtle show and or the Spider-Man show, the Turtle show. So obviously you have an affinity for the heroes and the comic side of things.
Yeah.
And you mentioned conventions. Do you go? Because I was looking at some of the art that you on your art station and a few other things. Do you set up a cons and do art? Like, do you sell
I
art
have
prints and stuff?
not. I have not. I've never set up my own table. And a big part of that was just because I love wandering around.
Mm. It
I
does,
love,
like I do that. I sell prints sometimes, and I often like look around, like I just kind of want to walk around for a bit,
yeah, yeah. I
you
really
know.
should. I've been meaning to kind of set up a table and just do that. Um, but I love wandering. I love the wandering part.
I love
But
Your Galactus, by the way. That's
oh, thank you.
yeah,
The big one.
yeah, I actually every once in a while I'll see something like I kind of want to draw a big Galactus head now. Yeah, it looks fun.
Yeah, yeah.
It's very cool. Did you ever have? This is totally off base, but just because it reminded me of that. Did you watch? Did you ever watch the original Silver Surfer cartoon?
I did when it first came out, and I honestly couldn't. I don't remember it.
I think it's
Again,
still on Disney Plus, and I've been meaning to go back to it because I remember thinking it was like the most Kirby-esque drawing I've ever seen in an animated show. They did like an
huh,
insanely, yeah.
I'll check it
Uh,
out.
yeah, it reminded me a little bit of looking at it. But yeah, you get some beautiful stuff here, man. That
Thank you.
Galactus is gorgeous. Like your Hellboy is excellent. They're all, I mean, it's all great. But
Thank you.
and it's like going through a who's who of my favorite childhood things, even Micronauts, which is something that I have a deep affinity for, but don't see
Yeah,
come
yeah.
up that often.
Yeah, it's just stuff, you do a lot of that stuff. Not the Galactus image in particular, but a lot of stuff I would do while I was on the train commuting into the
Hmm.
office. Um, like I think the Hellboy pictures, that's how I did those. And I would just kind of, it used to be that I was just constantly playing games on my phone. And I said, you know what, I could be doing a lot better things with this time, that I have. And I picked up a sketchbook and I started drawing on there. And I found that I love doing that. I feel like I kind of leveled up just doing that, just drawing. I was always afraid of working with ink because it's permanent.
Hmm.
But learning how to you're working with ink while you're on a moving train.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's a trial by fire.
yeah, that's a trial by fire, and I got very comfortable doing that, and it was a lot of fun. Yeah, so a lot of those pictures are done like that.
The
Um,
last few things I've done that I'm pretty proud of were for like on an airplane trip because you sit there and you're like, I've got to pretty used to drawing with a tablet. So
mhm.
you sit in the plane and you got like, depending where you're going, 5, 6 hours to kill.
Yeah,
Sometimes you sit there and I often would just it's not watch a movie or read a book, which are also great things to do. But sometimes when you're like trying to fend off falling asleep or getting some energy, I feel like engaging with art keeps you going. So
yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah,
yeah,
I put my sketchbook at least around with me everywhere. It's
yeah.
almost like a comfort blanket or something. I always have to have my backpack with my sketchbook because God forbid I have a free moment and I'm not doing anything with it.
Yeah, yeah.
I need something to kind of idle away any free time I might have.
That's awesome. Well, what's next for you? What do you got on the go? Anything coming up, like events, or is it?
Uh, well, it's the industry has really gotten quite rocky
Hmm.
over the last few years. Between COVID and then the writer strikes,
Right.
um, and now AI over the last 2 years. It's really changed the landscape, and I'm trying to gauge exactly what my next moves will be.
Hmm.
Because it's not as straightforward as it used to be.
No.
It used to be that if I needed some extra money, I would make some phone calls, some industry friends, and I was able to get some side work. That's how I ended up working on the Hulk, the Ultimate Spider-Man, Young Justice, that kind of thing. But that's gotten pretty much uh, it's dried up unless you're like right there.
Hmm.
Um, and that would require me moving to California, and it's a little hard to kind of uplift your entire family across country uh, for seasonal work.
Hmm.
The other thing about animation is, you're working from one season to the next, and you're let go, and between seasons, um, and that's a little scary when you have a family and a
Yeah.
mortgage to worry about. Um, So yeah, I'm kind of trying to figure out what my next move might be. And it feels like artists now, you really kind of have to create your own, you have to create your own business model now. You kind of have
Mm,
to be an entrepreneur for yourself,
yeah,
and sell yourself as a company, figure out what you're going to do. And that's the challenge at the moment.
yeah.
Um, and I see a lot of artists succeeding in selling merchandise, which is definitely one very valid way, designing T-shirts. I could take a few of the drawings that I currently have, maybe make T-shirts out of those. Uh, but you want to do more,
Mhm.
um, and I kind of just have to figure out what that is. So, I've always had a lot of ideas for my own comic titles, comic runs, stories. Um, uh, and that's just, I'm kind of like, all right, so now comics are being, you could sell your story to be made into a film or a TV show if you're very, very lucky, and it has to be good. So, those are the kind of things I'm considering pursuing these ideas that have been in the back of my head for so long, for decades at this point, that I just never made the time for before. And now it seems like, uh, you know, this is actually might be the best time to do this kind of thing,
Yeah,
to do
awesome.
that. Yeah.
Wow,
So yeah, that's
I
what
look
I'm just
very
trying to figure.
cool.
Yeah, thanks.
I look
We'll
forward to
see.
seeing. Yeah, well, I look forward to seeing what that is. So that'd
Thank
be
you
awesome. Well, yeah, I won't take any more of your time. Thank you so much for being on the show. This is a real pleasure, Jason.
very much for having me. I
All
appreciate
right,
it.
you have yourself a great day.
All right, you too. Take
All
care.
right,
Bye
bye
bye.
bye. There you have it, my conversation with Jason. A great chat with a great dude, really fun time, a really great conversation, and as always, very grateful to have such cool guests on the show. Thanks to Davin, our guest acquirer, I guess, for being so good at grabbing folks for the show and bringing me such quality people like Jason. And if you like, these conversations, you like my particular brand of podcasting, be sure to check out me and Davin over at X-Rated, the X-Men Anime Review Show, in which we talk about the 90s X-Men cartoon. Super fun, great time, great chats, and it's all good. It's all good. Enjoy it. Anytime, anyway. Anytime, anyway. Be sure to tune in next week for another conversation. Just recording that today. Hopefully, don't want to announce it just in case it doesn't happen. But any which way, there'll be an episode next week, hopefully. And yeah, be sure to tune in. In the meantime, stay safe, have fun, read some comics, watch Alien Earth if you want to, read a book, go outside. Don't walk in the woods if you're in Nova Scotia. And yeah, try to enjoy the weather, enjoy your summer, enjoy your time. That's all we can do with our time, is try and enjoy it. You should enjoy yours. This program is a proud part of the Swear to Pod Network.